Hey YouTube, it's Roy. I'm a UI designer based in the UK, and today you're going to learn how to design a website in Figma with auto layout. And what we're going to be designing today is a conference website, and for inspiration we're going to use the UX Plus. So here, just to quickly show you, they have different sections, and we might not do everything in one go, but we're just going to use the content as an example. I'm going to hit the T tool, and I'm just going to say nav link, and we just zoom in. So let me just check. I'm going to use Interfont, and it's going to be a size of 16. So here I can just say Command D, Command D, Command D, and you can very quickly select all of them and do Shift A. This is auto layout now, so you can just horizontally direction, and it does it very quickly for you. And we're going to space it out by 16, and that's just very quick. Now the old way is you do the same thing. You'd hit the T tool, I'm assuming, and you say nav link. You then do Shift Alt, drag it out, and you'd have to manually know the distance. So let's say the distance is 24, Shift Alt, the distance is 24, Shift Alt, the distance is 24. You do frame selection, and then that would be your nav. The downside to this is it's not fluid as well. With auto layout, the beautiful thing about it is it's not fluid either straight away, but what you can do, you can select all of them and you can just say fill container. So now the beautiful thing is it will be nice and fluid, and here you can be more precise with spacing. 24, you might want to change it if you're on a larger screen to 40. So this is another beautiful thing about auto layout. It's responsive and it's easier for you to change the spacing. Here you have to do this manually. So hopefully that's demonstrated the old school way and the new school way with auto layout. What we actually need here is we are also going to just Command D that. If we quickly reference here, we got two nav items or nav lists. So I'm just going to reduce the spacing now to, let's say, 16. And we're going to say hug contents. So what I have to do now, I have to go into each one and I have to say hug contents. So now the spacing between them is 16. Here I have to again go into each item. I have to say hug contents because we don't want it to fill, and the spacing between is 16. And we also want the whole auto layout here to hug contents. Okay, so the branding, we can use a fictional branding that I designed on the previous project, which is Ready Designer 1, and here I'm just going to say RD1. And the font we're going to use is, rather than go with their style here or here, they've gone a very nice and condensed font, tall font. We are going to go wide, so a bit similar to this. And the font that I've chosen is called Zen Dots. It's a really nice wide font. We're going to say 24 pixels, and that is pretty sweet. To create this navigation, what we can do again is we can select all of them, and we can actually put this into an auto layout as well. So Shift A, and immediately put it in the middle. We just want to take that out, just bring this out a bit, but you can see it's not fluid. So what we have to do is we're going to have to go into each of these and say fill container. So what should hopefully happen now is you can see it's starting to be fluid, but all we have to do now is just make sure that this is center aligning, and this one we actually want those to be aligned, or the whole thing to be on the right. And then the whole thing, you can see here it's not aligned in the center, so again we are just going to vertically align in the middle. So now if I was to do this, you can see it is nice and fluid. Now, just to give us a background color so we can see what we're doing. And what we're going to do is a structure that we're going to use for all the other sections. So the beautiful thing about auto layout is if I go here, we can use this structure as a basis for all the other sections you can see. So testimonial section, speaker section, and here you have like a section for pricing. If you're finding value in this video, please hit the like button. Here we're gonna have the basis, and here we're gonna call that container. And this is something that Webflow, a very good structure for Webflow for any users out there. If I do Shift A again, I'm gonna call this nav. But here I want to zero out on the padding. This one, we are gonna actually introduce padding on the container. So all around, I'm going to say 40 pixels. Command D that, and in there, I'm going to just change this to section. And the container, we're actually going to give it more spacing on the top and the bottom. So let's say 100 and 100. And now what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to very quickly delete everything for now, because I just want to show you the old way of doing things. We are going to have one text item here, and this is going to be the title. Or actually, this is going to be the date. Command D that. This is going to be, let's just say a heading, or let's say subheading. Command D that. This is going to be title. Command D that. So you can imagine what I'm doing now is like a 2-column layout. CTA. Sometimes there's 2 CTAs next to each other. So what I'm imagining now, we are going to do a 2-column layout. We're going to quickly put these into an auto layout. So Shift A. We're going to we can actually say 24 spacing. We then put this into its own auto layout. So Shift A. And again, we can control the spacing. So let's say this one we're also going to put in its own auto layout, so Shift A, we get rid of the spacing on there. So what we're going to call this, we're just going to say col for column. This one is also col for column. And then from there, we are just simply going to select both, and we're going to do Shift A again. Okay, so what this is going to be is, this is also going to be like a container. And now what we can do, we can just bring that up, but you can see it's not fluid. So we just select both of these. We do fill container. And if we go to these items, we can say fill container. These two, we can say fill container. Let's just see if I did it for that one. Okay, that's fill. This is also fill. And here we just have to make sure we zero that out. Nice. So now we've got a nice 50-50 layout. And I'm just going to fill that with white so we can see it. If you're finding value in this video, please hit the like button. We don't actually need this one. This is just a nice simple building block. But here we can then do Shift A again, and now we do a section, and this is actually the building blocks. If you're going to do it in HTML, CSS or Webflow, we got a nice section block now that we can use throughout for all the different things we're going to build. So here I'm just going to quickly zero out that and that. But if I go back to container, I'm going to say we need spacing on the left and the right, and the top and the bottom is going to be 100. Now we got another nice building block here, and so you got the nav. What we're going to say for the nav is we're going to give that a width of 1440. So you can see there the whole thing is not filling, so we just have to go to container. We go to fill container, and we're using 1440 because of the MacBook Pro size. And for this one, we're also going to do the same fixed width of 1440. And then the container has to fill. So now, if we combine these two, you can see there, it's going to end up just making a website. Well, different sections. So what we're going to do here is we're going to very quickly lay out the date. We're just going to do a bit of visual hierarchy. So here we're going to say this is the main heading. We're going to say 14. We're going to go medium on that. And this one, we're going to make that all caps as well. This one, we are also going to go to all caps. And then these two, we're actually going to make that into an auto layout so we can control the spacing. So Shift A, we're going to bring them closer together. Let's say 24 or 16. Okay, there we go. This one here, we're actually going to use the typography. So if I go here, I'm going to then use Zen dots. And we're actually going to use the alternate characters. So I'm getting rid of those slashes across. We're going to say 40. Nice. Okay, so is that too big? But again, you can play around. So let's say 24. One section I haven't done, which is the hero. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to Command D that. Let's go in here, and now for the hero, we only want one column. So I can just delete that. And this one, you can see it's filling up. So I can say, let's say we want everything to be in the middle. Okay, that doesn't work. So you have to actually use the text alignment. And this is going to be the main heading. Nice, so that'll be our main hero heading. Let's say 72. Okay, that is looking pretty good. We can then go 80. And let's bring that to the next line. Let's talk designing for startups. So here we got our hero section, right? So if we start to bring these together, which you'll see in a minute. If you're finding value in this video, please hit the like button. So actually, let's do some testimonials. So we just duplicate that. And what we're going to do here is we're going to delete that one, but we are going to duplicate this column. Okay, so Command D, you can see it's already auto laying the columns for you. Command D again. So this is obviously not going to fit. So what you have to do is we have to go into each of these. Okay, so if I Command Z, let's start going into each of these here. We have to make sure that they fill container. We go into each of these and we go to fill container. So now let's see, Command D, it's not doing it. So Command Z, the reason why is because you have to then go into each of these and make sure they fill container as well. Okay, so we go into each of these, we fill container. So now we go to one of them, Command D. Now it's starting to fill, which I think is pretty nice. Let me just see. So even if I change the width now, you can see it's fluid. It's very quick to do this, and it's just so adaptable. So again, if I go back to 1440, and what we want here is we're actually going to start deleting things, right? But we can just Command D that, right? And just keep that as a reference. But here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to use some lorem ipsum. So Command / should bring up the search menu. I'm going to say, let's say lorem. And the internet is absolutely dying here. Let's say, okay, one sentence should be enough. Generate. Okay, actually, let's go out of that. Let's say, do it again. So lorem ipsum, enter. We're going to say a paragraph. And then the font we want on that, we want regular, and we want it to be 16. Oh, Command A, 16. And then here, we're just going to do option. I'm going to say John Doe. So I'm just going to delete that. And this one here, I'm actually going to be more generous with the line height. Let's say 24. So very quickly, we got a nice testimonial section. So what we can do is let's delete these. You can see it's starting to fill the space, which is just absolutely insane. And if I Command D that, we got 2 testimonials. And what I want to do here is actually control the spacing between. So let's say 24. So if I go back to this one as well, in the container, I'm also going to say 24. This is like grid gap. So here we got a nice testimonial section. So again, you can say, hey, we've actually got 3 testimonials. So Command D that as well. So here I'm just going to Command D this. And I'm actually going to do this the other way. So I'm just going to swap the order. And here I'm actually going to give the name of the designer. So I'm going to say Olier. So he's a really good designer based in the UK as well. I'm sure you know him. And we're going to then make that, let's say 72. We're then going to have his title here. So let's say designer. And then we're just going to delete that. And we are going to delete these 2 CTAs. So we got 2 columns, but what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to introduce another one. Command D. You can see it's filling the space. Here we're going to have his socials. Okay. So I think that's pretty good. And we can change the layout. We can say we want this in the middle. Okay. And what we'll do now, actually, we'll probably have that back there. And what we're going to do with this is we are actually going to Command A or Shift A to bring that into an auto layout. I'm going to call that row. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to Command D this once. You can see it's gone out because the container, we want it to vertically stack. And let's have 5 people. So you can see how quickly this does it, and we can click that. Oh, that didn't work. Why that didn't work? Let's go to container and we change it to hug contents. There we go. So for each of these, we actually going to have a bit of spacing. So let's say we select all of them, and the spacing below each of them, let's say 40, and then let's say 24. And we actually want to have, so if we go to each one, and we're going to have an effect on there. So we actually want a drop shadow -1 from the top, get rid of the blur. Okay, so you can't see this because you actually have to fill each container. So I'm going to fill everything white. So now you can see the border. This is a trick to add a border from the effects. So there we quickly created our speaker section. Okay, so this is just really, really nice. So now if I just bring that down here, we got a speaker section, we got a testimonial section. Let's say that we use this block, Command D. Okay, and let's have a look and let's have a think. So again, we can play around with our typography. I'm just going to say pricing. So we're just going to make this up. We're going to list out all the benefits, and we are going to do that on its own. So just hit the T tool, and we are just going to pretend, so benefit 1. And it'd be nice to get a tick icon, but we're not going to do that now, just to save time. And we're going to have that as any case. So again here, I'm just going to Command D. And we're actually going to turn that into an auto layout, because now we can control the spacing. And I'm saying 16. And then the last section we're going to do is the footer. So the footer, we're actually going to keep it very similar to this one. So Command D that. And here, shall we use the font? We can do Control G or Alt G. There we go. And we just say copyright 2021. I mean, that is too much emphasis on that. So we are gonna go to, well, why not? Let's say 16. And here again, I'm going to say we got these 4, and then we got the socials. Okay, so I'm just going to close that because I think internet is dying. And in here, I'm going to say Twitter. So now we quickly created our footer, and we can rename that to footer. Okay, so again, we very quickly created a website using the same technique for each of these, and that is the beauty of auto layout. In order to join everything, what you can do is I just want to Command D all of them and then bring it over just to show this, because it's nice to see the progression. And what you can do is let's actually select all of them and then Shift A. And now the spacing is 0. So now we very quickly just joined everything, right? And you can see the spacing is consistent. I mean, that is just pretty nice. And you could probably just call that whole frame body. So it's kind of mimicking a website. So now, even though the order is the opposite in terms of Figma, but you can see here we got the nav with the container, a section with a container, all these sections, and then the footer at the end, which also has a container. So everything is consistent. Now, if I was to do that, you can see it's not fluid. So we just have to select all of them and then do fill container. So now this is pretty sweet, right? But the only one is the speaker one. Okay, so we're going to go to the speaker section, and we have to go to each of these rows, and we have to go to fill container. So let's see if that worked. Okay, that still doesn't work. So again, we just go into each of these columns and fill the containers. So here we go, fill container. So now you can see that it is just super fluid. And yeah, I think we've practically created a very nice and simple website. Probably there's a lot of things missing, right? Such as a heading per section. Okay, but I'm going to leave that to you. And so here you got testimonial, you got speakers, and there's probably a schedule, but again, we've got some of the main building blocks in here. I'm just going to Command D that again, because I'm just showing the progression of what we've done. We're going to create a dark version, so I'm just going to copy everything. We're going to go to a new page. We're going to say dark, going to Command V that. And the reason why this is a lot quicker is because if I just select the whole thing, selection colors, I'm going to say white. So everything has gone white. So if I go into each container, there we go. So you can see there that is turning out pretty nice. I'm just going to go, let's say hex. Okay, so now we just find each container. Okay, so very quickly we created our dark version. If I Command D that, let's say we want to bring a bit of color in. So something that I've used in the past is mesh gradients. So we are going to use some of these. We can go into each one and we're going to say each container, let's use a background or an image, sorry. And here you can choose. So back to desktop, let's say prim. And we need that to be 100%. So now we just very quickly put in some nice color, but the contrast is not great. So if we go into the container, we also have to decide if we want to fit it, crop it. Well, okay, I think fill is what we want, but that is just way too bright. It's a shame we can't change the position of it. So here we can just simply put this on top. We can then say something like 20%. Okay, but even that's not great. So here we can decide, this might actually be better on the light version. So let's just choose a different background. If I choose something that's darker, I think all the ones I've chosen are not that dark. So let's just have a look at that one. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. But I think you want to choose something a lot darker. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the light version and go in the container. Now let's choose, let's have a look at prim. Okay, so we got that very nice subtle color, but I'm actually going to go for something else. Let's say sky blue. Let's see how that looks. Okay, very nice and subtle. And you don't have to do this for every section. So I'm going to think, okay, let's just have a look at this one. And we go into the container. We are going to choose an image for this. We're going to say pale. Nice. Okay, that is pretty sweet as well. So the testimonials, I have to do it on the container. So let's change that to an image and we get Columbia blue. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, that might be better for the, that is probably better for the main heading. So again, let's go snowy mint on that. Let's try snowy mint. Prim. Or let's go pale. We have just very quickly created a conference website. Again, it's very simple using auto layout. We played around with backgrounds. Again, this is down to you to choose what you would like. And so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next video.